How's it going, my truant
What
people?
are we doing today?
Oh, right, we're keeping that. That's a fucking.
What
What are we doing today, my truant people? This is
are we doing?
This is Matthew.
Is this online therapy? Is online therapy? What are we doing today? What have you been doing? Have you been eating this
I'm
week?
joined by
Are you sleeping well?
Isaac and Eric, and today I want to talk to you about my feelings. I have so many feelings. Mainly, they're feelings of hatred for Isaac interrupting my fucking intro.
Hello guys, welcome to retarded channel.
The retirement podcast. That's what this is. This is the team SWEXIT Podcast, guys. This is the first episode. I'm joined by Isaac, who you've heard already, interrupting me, and Eric. Do you want to say hi, Eric?
No, I'm good.
No, okay.
No, I
Eric.
didn't. Why didn't I
Eric
get one?
hates the truant people. Confirmed. Stromful does not like.
I mean, it's not like I hate the truant people. I kind of just want to do a T-spill podcast instead, talking about drama and shit.
Oh, maybe that's what we should do.
To be fair, it was better before. It was better before though.
Yeah.
Your community when it was the Boland.
Yeah.
Bovine.
You don't even know my
Bovine.
team name. Oh, such a fake friend. You have a fucking mug with it on, and you still don't know
What are you
it.
been called now? What?
By the way, Matthew,
What are you been called now? You're the balloon.
No,
No. Matthew actually changed his.
Changed.
He rebranded again, and if we say it, do you have to censor us again?
No, because I could. Well, I don't know. Nah, fuck it. I can't be arsed. Say whatever you like.
Because you don't care.
Well, no, you're right. I don't.
You rebranded again.
Yeah, he rebranded again. He rebrands more than some people change their. Yeah. No, wait. Let's not finish that sentence. Yes, you're the Snowbirds now, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
your.
You are in the server, Isaac. The server has a Snover on it. Anyway, we're getting distracted. That's not the point. Let's stay on topic.
Oh my god. Yeah, it changed.
So this podcast, guys, as you can hear, is going to be chaos. We're basically just going to talk about whatever we feel like talking about. I won't say each week or each month or each year because I don't know how often we're going to do it. But and we might have guests on to join us to talk about specific things if we want. Any of us can kind of like suggest a topic and just, or if you guys want to suggest a topic you want us to talk about, then feel free to comment anything you want to hear us, I don't know, shoot the shit about. But it's just going to be, yeah, some Pokemon will come into it, I'm sure, but it's not going to be Pokemon focused. So if you're more interested to learn about personal stories, personal lives, things like that, then this is probably content that you'll enjoy. Otherwise, obviously, feel free to dislike it and comment down below telling me that I am your least favorite YouTuber and I should sell my channel to Isaac.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
I mean, if you sell it that way and they see like it's an hour of this, they probably will click off. So we need to start actually getting into the meat of the podcast right away.
All right, so the topic for this time is basically I wanted to recap like why I took a break for so long. I'm gonna have an update video posted just to explain that I'm coming back, but I tried to record it and I just it was really boring trying to explain where I'd been on my own without people to kind of discuss it with and like get into the meat of it with. So that's kind of the thing for today. We're going to talk about that. Also, when we, as a team, we were playing in a team league together, ran by Eric and Isaac, and we decided to actually step down at the semi-final stage and let somebody else take over. So we're just going to talk about kind of all of that process, and I guess for me, I know you two don't play as much either anymore, but why I've sort of slid towards retirement from Pokemon and things like that. So that's the kind of the topic for today. So do you two want to add anything before I jump into kind of just talking about why I took a break and stuff?
Yes, Matthew will actually reveal which of the BFO members he likes the least at the end.
I think everybody knows. I think everybody knows who I like the least. His name's fucking Isaac, and I hate him.
You can't even pick me because I'm not even in the fucking BFO server. No, I'm not BFO.
You're
not BFO.
You're not in BFO.
I'm not.
You're in the server, but you just have one role who's called Fatty.
No, I'm not. I'm not in the
Okay,
server.
you
Look,
just
I'm
left
not in the server.
Has he left?
I'm not in the
You left the server.
Yeah. I'm not in the BFO. You can't even pick
You're
me
the
this time.
worst.
No, but before we get started, I just want to point out the fact that I genuinely. By the way, Eric, can you invite me back again? I want to be in the server.
I don't invite
I
you.
don't think I can. No, I can't.
Seriously though.
I remember I tried to invite some random person like 4 years ago, and Matthew didn't let me.
I keep a
I
very
think it was-
strict
No, but like-
control
I think it was
of
like
genuinely
people
though.
in my
High run or
community. God.
Yeah.
Eric.
What's up?
Eric, I genuinely forgot before we start, because I really want to know about Matthew's shit, because I don't know anything. I actually don't know what you've been up to.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, I genuinely forgot we forfeited our own league.
I
genuinely forgot about that.
It wasn't even like in the regular season something. We smashed our quarterfinals opponents and they just did.
And not even just forfeited our own league. We forfeited our own league as reigning champions.
Jesus Christ! I forgot
it was
all about
that.
That is so funny.
As well. 3-0 them.
Jesus Christ. It's so fucking funny. Anyway, Matt,
I think we had the chance for the title that season as well if we actually had the motivation for it.
But that's pure speculation.
Yeah. But that's just a game theory.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that we were in semi-finals and reigning champions automatically kind of means like, yeah, you've got a good shot, right? I don't think anyone would look at that and say, oh, SWEXIT had no chance, like they were fucked. Like we for sure were, well, arguably favourites again.
Everyone literally said that since week 1.
Still, whatever. Huh?
Everyone literally said that we would have no chance after week 1.
Yeah, but that's because week 1 we were all over the place. But
we killed
that kind of ties into me kind of stepping away. So obviously we were playing this team league together. We were really on it. Like we were prepping together, mocking and stuff, and it was always so much fun. And if you guys check Isaac's channel, which will be linked down in the description, there are videos of us prepping together, mainly me screaming at Isaac. So go and check those out if you haven't seen them, because they were very funny. But I was loving that, and that was giving me motivation to play in my other leagues, because I was just kind of in that Pokemon headspace. And then when we stepped away from that, I just kind of just lost interest in it completely. Like games started to feel like chores, prepping started to feel like a chore. I was getting to be like 10 minutes before a scheduled time with someone, and I was just didn't want to do it. I was just like, I don't fucking want to do this, and like putting it off or delaying to the next day or whatever. And yeah, at that point I was like, what's the point in having a hobby where you don't want to participate, right? Like there's no point. No one washes dishes as a hobby, right? So why would you do something that feels the same?
No.
And once,
except Eric though, Jesus fuck, Eric. That is a genuine hobby of Eric's. He washes dishes for fun.
I mean, it's relaxing in a way. I don't know why people have so much trouble with it.
Why did you choose that example? You are talking to the one man in the fucking galaxy that wakes up, does his fucking chores and everything. Then when he's done, he's like, you know what? I'll do the dishes. And it's like, cool.
I hate it.
I'm a very boring person in general.
So boring.
So doing these kinds of examples are not really going to work with a podcast with all 3 of us. If it was just you or Isaac, you can just talk about
yeah, because we're both idiots.
Dishwasher.
With no attention span.
Yes.
So that's where I was at. I was just like, I couldn't be bothered to edit my videos, and yeah, so I was just like, I don't really want to do this. And then I was trying to focus more on university, but that just wasn't really happening for me. Like I spoke to you, Eric, briefly in that time. I've been at university for maybe a month or 2 of my PhD, and I'd done 1 afternoon's worth of reading, and that was it. Like I hadn't touched anything else. And when I was meeting with my professors, I was having to just basically like bullshit my way through the meetings to act like I was doing my research. And I think when you're like, you're first at university as an undergraduate and you're all bullshitting and stuff, it's kind of like fine, everyone's doing it. It's not that different to being at school. But at the point where I'm like being a PhD student, it feels as though there's a level of like responsibility that I just wasn't taking, and I was like, okay, this is not great. So I also didn't want to keep playing Pokemon because I felt like it was distracting me. Now, because I'm the type of person I am, I will get rid of one distraction and then fill it with another one. So I instantly just got hooked on like Football Manager and other video games and just started playing games a shit ton. But all the while, what was going on in that time was quite funny, because I went to stay with Katie, and I had seen something while I was staying with her that said about ADHD people never reply to text messages, because if they don't see something, then it doesn't exist anymore. So like if you ever text me and I don't answer, or message me on Discord and I don't answer, if I clear that notification without replying to you, I will forget that message exists for the rest of my life. Like it just ceases to exist anymore. I think they call it object permanence. And it made me laugh because I'm very known for doing that amongst my mates. So I kind of said to her like, "Oh, this is funny, look at this ADHD thing." And when I'd been at school, I'd had teachers, because you two know this, but a lot of other people don't. I wasn't very good at school, and I used to get in a lot of trouble. And so I had teachers that were like, "Oh, you remind me of my ADHD son," or things like this. And I didn't really take it that seriously.
Oh, Jesus.
Because when I was at school, I thought that ADHD was like this American thing that they just kind of labeled like kids with poor like discipline. I was like, oh, this kid's just an idiot, so they've said he's got ADHD, and like it's just an excuse, right? So I didn't really take it very seriously. And then I started looking at all this stuff about it to send to Katie as a meme. I kept sending her these like threads about ADHD as like jokes, like, look, it's not my fault, I have ADHD, as like banter. And then after like a month of doing that, I was like, hold on a minute. Everything I do in my life literally
this is too real.
Like literally relates to this. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is too relevant. So that was the other thing, was that I started looking into speaking to like a specialist and trying to get a potential diagnosis and start on that. And with all that going on, with Pokemon feeling like a chore, I was just like, do you know what I mean? I was like, for my own sanity, I'm just going to step away and and try and like get focused on that.
Sounds healthy.
Yeah, right. Because I think if you're trying to like, if you're trying to focus on something and you're really bad at focusing, like removing some distractions does help. So that was why I initially stepped away. And then, like I say, I went to speak to this psychiatrist a couple of weeks ago now, and I found out loads about this. And I don't know how much you two know about like ADHD or anything like that. Do you guys know like?
Not
well, since neither of us have it, I don't think we've researched it.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That we know at least.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We know of it, but we don't know like the details probably.
Yeah, and I was
not as much.
For all we know, it might be the fucking we don't know. Probably we probably do not have ADHD. At least not Eric.
Right.
I might have.
Yeah, you're probably more similar to me, Isaac. Isaac's like, let me hear the symptoms before I confirm I don't have it.
Isaac's sitting there with a pen and pencil. It's like, what did I do today? Does anything match?
So, okay.
Let me take notes.
I'll explain it then, because you might find this interesting, Isaac. So, I basically started looking into it, and I thought like, okay, you can have like, let's say you have depression, right? It was what we think of like as a mental health issue, and that could come from like trauma or something like that, and you could go and see a counselor, and you could like work on it and work through the issues. I guess I just assumed ADHD was like a mental health thing. I didn't really know, and then when I looked into it, I was like, oh no, so it's a neurological disorder, which is. And I'm not a scientist to everyone listening, so please don't just take my word as gospel here. But my basic understanding is that like the frontal lobe of the brain is slightly thinner, and so that then affects like dopamine levels and another chemical called like norepinephrine. I can't say it properly, but like these chemical levels in your brain are much lower if you have this thinner frontal lobe, and also the connections between certain parts of your brain don't quite function as well because of that. So instead of it being something that's like caused by life events or something like that, it's kind of almost physical in the sense of a bit of your brain is literally thinner than other people's, and it's chemically balanced wrong, and so you're born with it and it stays for life. They used to think you could grow out of it, but you can't. And
oh, really?
Yeah, so you can't...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so all you can do basically is and it sounds ridiculous because when we think of ADHD, what you think of like the really hyperactive kid, right, bouncing around the classroom, or you think of me when we're doing our like preps for, I don't know if you remember, there was one night we were doing owl prep and I spent about 45 minutes looking up Swedish place names and trying to pronounce them.
Yes.
I do remember that. I got very annoyed by you that night.
Right.
Or when we tried to teach you Among Us.
Or when you tried to teach me Among Us and you were like, okay, Matthew, you now have to sit here muted for 10 minutes while we finish this round of Among Us. And I was like...
It wasn't even that. It was just like, do you see this little spaceman? He's about to do a task. I don't want to do task. Can I kill myself?
Oh, shit.
So when you think of ADHD, you think of things like that. You think of the hyperactive kind of side of it. But when you treat ADHD, the only or the primary way to treat it is to give a person stimulants. And you think like, well, that makes no sense. If somebody's already hyper, why would you give them stimulants? But because what stimulants do is they stimulate the brain, it basically ups the brain level to where the different parts connect properly and the dopamine gets produced at a proper level. So it actually, instead of starting at like a deficit, if you like, it brings you back up to that level with everybody else. So it's kind of the opposite of what you expect. So I was like learning about all this stuff, and it was really interesting because what they found, they did a load of research into this, and they couldn't find any people, or they couldn't find many people that smoked and were on ADHD medication because they wanted to see if the two affected each other. And what they realized was that lots of people with ADHD develop addictions to substances that release like stimulants and things. So like nicotine would be a stimulant. Yeah. So for me, back in 2016, I gave up Coca-Cola, the fizzy drink. I had a really, really, really bad Coca-Cola addiction, super bad caffeine addiction. And I gave it up in 2016, and 2016 was the last time I had performed well at university. I'd had about 2 years where I'd been really performing really well, really focused, really, like motivated, not getting distracted and stuff. I gave up Coca-Cola, and for the 4 years afterwards, my university performance just went through the fucking floor. Like, it was so bad. I couldn't focus on anything. I was super distracted all the time. And I kind of realized...
Wait, because then Coke, the cola worked as a sort of attention... Like, did that help you academically to have an addiction?
So when I would have to work on university, I would binge drink Coke all day because caffeine is a stimulant and it stimulates the same parts of the brain as the ADHD drug. I was essentially self-medicating. So, and that's why, because people used to say to me, people would be like, "You drink so much fucking caffeine. Like, why aren't you bouncing off the walls? Why aren't you so hyper all of the time?" You actually, if anything, seem more laid back when you've drank loads and loads of Coke. And it's because it was bringing me up to the same level as other people, right? And this is, like I said, this is my basic understanding of it. So all of this, like, kind of, all the pieces kind of fit together for me. And I was like, fuck, man, this makes a lot of sense. Because when I was at school, the way, obviously you guys know my behavior wasn't great. And the way I used to explain it to people was like, it sounds really stupid, but I didn't want to be a shithead, right? There are some times where I want to be a dick, but when I was at school, I didn't want to be. I wanted to be a good student, and I really didn't want to fuck around. But I felt like I had two choices at school because I found it so boring. I found it so understimulating. I felt like I either had to go to sleep during my lessons, or I had to misbehave. Like there were the only two things I could see as reasonable possibilities. And I've had the same problem at jobs. Like I walked out of a job the other day and I said, like, I can't go back there because I wanted to start an argument with the boss there. And I'm not like an argumentative guy, but I was just that fucking bored and that like going out of my fucking mind that I was like, I'm just going to start a row with him for something to do, right? And the way that, like, again, it's kind of explained is if you were really thirsty and you really needed water, you would just go and have a drink. So if your brain is starved of dopamine and you're in a really boring situation, you will go and try and find something. And sometimes that dopamine comes through like the adrenaline of getting in trouble or starting arguments or playing video games or whatever, or playing on your phone. And so people will look at an ADHD kid like me being a complete shithead at school and they'll be like, well, why did he do that? But it would be no different to telling someone who had chronic thirst, why the fuck are you drinking water? Like, of course they are. They're thirsty as hell. Oh, right?
Shit.
So once I kind of understood that, I was like, oh, wow, like that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, like I say, you guys have seen with me in calls and stuff how much I get sidetracked and start talking shit and, start trying to pronounce Swedish place names.
We've seen all kinds of sides of this. So,
even when you came to stay with me, I'm sure there were probably times where you thought, like, wow, he just fucking... gets distracted.
Actually, no. I'd say when we came to stay with you, you were really laid back.
You don't really come off as one.
No.
But to be fair, I haven't met that many ADHD diagnosed people. But wow, really?
So
I'm just thinking through everything. Yeah, sorry, go on. Go ahead.
But that's actually the other really, really interesting thing that I should have clarified. There are three distinct forms of ADHD. It all comes under the same umbrella, But there's what's called the primary inattentive type, the primary hyperactive type, and then a combined type. And you basically have to fill out a checklist on each side. And if you had enough symptoms on each side, you would be called the combined type. Or if you had just on one, you'd be inattentive, or just on the other, you'd be hyperactive. So again, that hyperactive kid that just cannot sit still, that is just twitchy and running around and like wired all the time, that's the hyperactive side. I wasn't even close to getting diagnosed on that side, because as you guys rightly say, physically and when you're around me, I'm very laid back, like I'm very chilled out. But on the inattentive side, which is like, I guess, the more mental rather than physical, on that side, I scored basically max. Like, it was very, very severe. Because I will, like, drift off and not be able to pay attention to anything. So at school, like, although I was a shithead at school, it wasn't that I was getting out of my chair and running around. It was that I was really disruptive, because I would be talking about the wrong things, or just getting, like, start playing with things, or start distracting my friends. Like, right? It's not that I'm not hyperactive, I'm inattentive. They're the two kind of different things, if that makes sense. So you're exactly right, Isaac, that I wouldn't seem like... And then there will be lots of people you will know, I imagine, who are on the inattentive side, who you wouldn't know, because they just seem like daydreamers, or they just seem like they're easily distracted.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like what's been going on, and then I've started on the medication for it now, and I'm going through that whole process, which is why I've decided to try and come back to Pokemon, because I'm like, maybe with the medication to help me like juggle things, I'll be able to enjoy playing Pokemon but not get so consumed by it. Because I think you and I have had this conversation, specifically Isaac, where sometimes Eric talks to me and like today's a good example. Eric, you were like, I slept too long today, so I found it difficult to do university work, so I've played quite a bit of Pokemon. But there are some days where you will like do some university work, then you'll play some Pokemon, then you'll maybe hang out with friends. And I think maybe, Isaac, you're a little bit more like me, where if I do one thing in a day, I find it really, really difficult to switch to doing something else. So once I get into like a gaming session,
yes,
I'm in that gaming session, and you can take me to you can take me to a coffee shop with all my friends afterwards, and we can all be talking about whatever the fuck we want. But my brain will still kind of be like in that gaming session, if that makes sense. And I might.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm in that now. I'm actually in that now. No, I have been playing. I got my girlfriend next to me as a fucking witness. I have been playing non-stop with a friend from maybe 9 till basically now, like just short breaks. I know I have to study, but I want to do that tomorrow because I can do that 100% tomorrow.
Right.
So yes, I totally I am the same. So I really want to just focus, give all the focus like to one thing or maybe two things, but I can't switch in between.
Yeah, and so a lot of that with the video gaming as well, in my case, because of this, will be, it's like waking up in the morning and you have your breakfast, right? And like, so again, like, Eric might wake up in the morning and think, man, I can't do my university work till I've eaten, I'm too hungry, right? So he goes and has a bowl of cereal or his breakfast, and then he's like, right, on to my university work. For me, I wake up in the morning, instead of feel hungry, like, it's that dopamine deficiency. I'm like, I need some, like, dopamine, and I've got to, my brain needs to feel like rewarded. It needs to feel like that instant gratification. So first thing in the morning, instead of having a bowl of cereal, I might start playing a video game. I might start building a Pokemon team on my laptop. I might start planning a draft. And then the problem is I'll do that for an hour, but I can't then switch to something else. So every day I'm like starting off on the wrong foot, getting like sucked in again, because I'm constantly needing that like breakfast of dopamine, if you see what I mean. So again, that's why, like, well, maybe with the medication, bringing my chemicals up to a normal level, maybe then I'll be able to wake up in the morning, do an hour of gaming, and then go and do a normal day without completely, getting sucked into that hole. Well, that's the hope.
Oh yeah, that is really interesting. I think that's even related. I think hunger. I'm pretty sure hunger is like thoroughly connected to dopamine. I'm pretty sure dopamine is a I think you need it to feel hungry. Yes, to the receptors. Yeah.
So this is sort of my area, which I've been studying for the last 3 years. It's microbiology.
Yeah.
So dopamine is released with anything that the body kind of wants.
Yeah, exactly right.
Something that will motivate us to keep doing that chore, like getting food, drinking water, having sex, stuff like that, which will keep us in the right path of life, sort of to say.
Yeah, which is...
yeah, it's sort of like the body's motivational factor.
Yeah, of course, but then also you need dopamine to even feel hunger. I'm pretty sure dopamine is needed for the brain to kind of signal the feeling of hunger, right? I'm pretty sure that is pretty connected as well. Not just when you eat, like, yeah, the brain tells you that, yeah, that's good, you just ate, here's some dopamine. I'm pretty sure I've read somewhere that dopamine is, or I've heard that dopamine is connected to just the feeling of hunger.
So the medication
dopamine is connected to, like, about everything.
Yeah.
The medication I'm taking is called Elvance in the UK, Vyvanse in the US. Pretty much everywhere it's got a different bit at the beginning, but it's always called something Vance, I think. In the US, it's the first approved drug to be diagnosed for people with binge eating disorder because it's such a strong appetite suppressant. Exactly like you say, Isaac, because it raises the dopamine. They give it to people who haven't got ADHD but have eating problems because it will stop them from feeling hungry. It will stop that bit of their brain. So yeah, you are right that they're linked. And like Eric says, the rates of addiction for people with ADHD are sky high because drugs, sex, alcohol, smoking, caffeine, sugar, all these things give you dopamine release. So I know in my life I've been very heavily addicted to caffeine. I've also been this sounds kind of funny, but arguably I've had a mild sex addiction, I would say, at some point, but that's for another podcast. That's for another time.
Shag master, the fucking shag
That's for another time.
He comes out of retirement and exposes himself as a sex addict. This is insane.
Not as bad as caffeine. And then also, definitely now, even to this day, currently, I'm very bad with sugar. I eat so much like sugary food all the time, and since I've been taking the medication, I'm not craving sugary food, and it feels really weird to me because I'm always that guy that will eat like a whole pack of cookies, and people will be like, "Don't you feel sick? Like, did you really need to eat that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I fucking did. Like, I feel amazing. What are you talking about?" And since I've been on the medication, I'll have a few cookies, and I'll be like, "Huh, I don't feel like I need to eat all of these anymore." It's a really alien feeling to me.
That's so cool.
Unfortunately, that's the only thing the medication's done. Like, it's done jack shit apart from make me not want sweet food. So we're trying to up my dosage because you have to start on a low dosage and work your way up, basically.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm having to up mine, and that's fine. But
we should probably also put a disclaimer like halfway through here that we don't invoke everyone to like self-diagnose themselves with ADHD and try and
absolutely not
self-medicate or something. But just want to throw that out there before we get sued.
Yeah, of course. You should see a professional if you think just like Matt did. Yeah. Right? Like just like Matt did. If you suspect, sure, but go to a fucking professional. Don't do it yourself, you dumb twat.
And do research outside of this podcast. Like, don't listen to me and go like, well, he knows what he's talking about. He's done his research. Like, yeah, I did my research, but I'm not that. I'm not trained in science or anything like that. I'm just repeating my understanding of it, and it is way more complex than I've done that. So, for example,
I am trained, however, so you can listen to me.
Before someone just chews down a whole box of cookies and think they have ADHD and start medicating themselves.
Yeah, it might just be that you're fat, which is fine, but that might be it.
It might just be that you're overweight or diabetic.
Oh,
yeah.
But so if you guys listening are interested, the kind of telltale signs, if you want to do more research and considering it, they say that ADHD is a poor name for this disorder. It stands for attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and they say it's a poor name because not all of us are hyperactive, and not all of us actually can't pay attention. What's a better name for it, they say, is executive function disorder, because it's the part of your brain that they call executive function that's impaired. And what executive function controls is the ability to regulate your attention and focus. So it's not that you can't focus on anything, it's that you don't really choose what you focus on. Something will just grab you, will give you that dopamine hit, and you will be hyper-focused on it for 6 hours. People could be talking to you and you wouldn't hear a fucking word they said because all you're doing is playing your video game or whatever. But then if you tried to go do schoolwork, you wouldn't be able to move on. Your brain would still be in the hyper focus of the last thing. So it's the inability to regulate focus, and it's also sometimes can be the inability to regulate emotions. So sometimes, even though your life might be great, you might feel a little down, which is why some people think they might have depression or whatever. And then finally, the inability to regulate your impulses. So for me, I'm a very impulsive spender. I am an incredibly impulsive spender. And that was another kind of telltale thing. Like for example, I saved up a load of money to go and study my PhD, and then I've spent it all on a sports car. That was not that was not a good financial decision. But I'm not good at controlling my impulses. I just kind of fucking do things that give me a dopamine hit, like driving a 1980s sports car that keeps breaking down and costing me even more money that I don't have.
But it looks so good though.
Or I just quit jobs because I'm like, this is boring me now, quit, and without having another job ready, and then I'm broke as fuck. So if you found in your life that maybe you've really struggled to pay attention to things, you've made rash decisions that you've later thought, I didn't really think that through that properly, or maybe sometimes you felt down when you should feel good, or you felt really good when you should feel bad. These are all things that maybe you should look into ADHD more, but seriously look into it more. Don't just listen to me. That's the disclaimer. Isaac's sat there scribbling everything down. Isaac's I know what I'm doing tonight.
I feel very attacked. I feel attacked. In pounds, that is, I had £5 on my account yesterday.
What?
The next the next payment I'm receiving is not until the 25th, so that's in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I
how have you managed to blow that amount of money?
I bet my last money on a league match and lost. Motherfucker.
No, seriously.
Well, I don't know if this is going to make you feel better or worse, Isaac, but this week I have a £3,000 overdraft from when I was at university. I had a payment go out of my bank that took me £20 over my overdraft. So I have literally no money. The bank are now harassing me for the extra £20 that I owe them more than I should owe them. And I, the other day, went around my house, looking down the side of my bed, looking at my wallet, looking in all my pockets, to see if I could find enough change to buy a pot of ice cream to sit and eat while I watched a movie. And I spent my last change on the ice cream.
God.
So
you're so worse than me. Jeez.
So
can't you just claim you have ADHD to the bank and they'll just forgive you on debt?
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yes, we see you bought this car.
No,
well,
but
yeah,
you joke.
we buy it.
This is classified as a disability. So now I'm like, how many times can I fuck up in life and just go, well, I'm disabled. It's not my fault. Like, at what point?
Oh my god!
At what point is that an honest answer, and what point is that being a dick? Like, I don't know the boundary because I've never been here before. I'm like, this is all new to me.
Oh my god!
You actually have a disability now.
Eric, do you reckon Matt can park at the handicap zone in the parking lot?
My mum said that. My mum was like, can you get special parking? I was like, no. They're not worried I'm going to get lost in the car park. Like, I can't pay enough attention to find my way out of the fucking car park. Like, no, you can't yet. But there are loads of things. Like, I wish I'd known at university, because you get extra time on exams, you get extra time on essays, you get like shitloads of stuff over here.
Yeah, of course. Deservingly, you should get that.
Right, because the idea is, and people look at it like, why do they get something extra? Because it's like playing with a handicap, right? You are handicapped. You're already starting at a disadvantage. Yeah. It is a disability, but it's so weird to me because, without wanting to be whatever, I've never seen myself as having a disability, and I don't think other people have ever seen me that way. So I'm finding it really odd, because I'm like, it's not like I'm in a wheelchair. Do you know what I mean? It's not visible. It's not. So I'm finding it really, that whole thing is really confusing to me. Like,
yeah, but have you found it hard to cope? Like, just in general, like, because if you get it. Because if you get it like officially, like you are diagnosed with ADHD by a professional.
Yeah.
Did you find it hard to cope with the fact that you got it just straight at it as it is, no more speculation? A professional sat down and said, "Yes, Matthew, you have ADHD."
No.
Was that a big thing for you? Was it like, wow, was it like, yes, finally?
Yeah, exactly.
This explains so much, or was it more like, shit, Wow, really?
I was relieved because basically I had been doing my research for enough time that I knew, I knew without a shadow of a doubt, I knew I had ADHD. The other thing is it tends to be genetic. So usually when they diagnose a child, they diagnose one or the other parents. My mum is exactly like me. You guys have met my mum. She's just fucking like me. My mum starts businesses all the time. She jumps through jobs all the time. And people are always giving her stick about it and giving her a rough time, but it's just because she's struggling with the same thing that I'm struggling with, right? So it's not really her fault. And she didn't know for 60 years. No one told her, so she's just been living with it for 60 years. And so I knew going into it, I had enough evidence, if you like, that I was certain. I was like, my mum's the same, I'm the same, my dad and my brothers don't really seem to be the same. So it seems to clearly come down that family line, and my grandma on my mum's side was the same, etc. So for me, it really made sense. So when we went to the guy, my dad actually paid for me to go and see a specialist because I went to the NHS over here, the National Health Service, and they said that I'd have to wait up to 5 years to be seen. And
oh shit,
with my PhD only being 4 years long, everything else in life, I was like, I can't do that, right? I gotta have it now. And because we got put into lockdown over here, my family was supposed to be going on holiday in February but couldn't go. The holiday got cancelled, and my dad was going to pay for it. So I kind of said to him, not to be the difficult child, but I don't suppose that money that would have been spent on the holiday could help me get this diagnosis, because it would be really helpful. And had all of those things not kind of fallen into place, it may have been I'd had to wait 5 years, whatever, I don't know. So I was very, very lucky. Unlucky that my family missed out on their holiday, but lucky that I got to
That's insane, though.
Speak to a psychiatrist. So
that is insane.
So by the time I spoke to him, because the family's holiday money had been spent on it and stuff, I was really scared that I was going to get there and he was going to turn around and be like, "No, you're just a lazy prick that likes video games too much. Get the fuck out of here." So when he was like, "No, you basically," he said we had up to 3 hours, and he diagnosed me within 40 minutes. So it was so fast. He was like, "This is very obvious. I think had I lived in a different kind of area, or if had ever come into contact with any people more knowledgeable on it when I was younger at school, I would have been diagnosed much, much younger. But my school wasn't very clued up on that kind of thing. So yeah, I guess it's a good question. Did it feel weird? No, it felt like a relief. I was just like, okay, thank fuck. The weird thing has been afterwards trying to figure out so what the fuck do I do now, right? Just watching videos of other people that have started on the medication talking about it's been life-changing. Today I went for 3 runs, and I washed all my dishes, and I read a book, and I feel like a normal human being. And I'm like, fuck, is that what's going to happen? Am I going to start running?
That feels too much as well.
Right. And some of those people then ended up on too strong a dosage, and they ended up lowering their dosage because it was getting them too wired or whatever. But yeah, that's really what I've been doing ever since, is just trying to figure out, so what the fuck happens to my life now? What's going to be the effect? And as I say, so far I've been taking the medication for a week today, and other than not wanting sugar as much, it's done literally nothing. So I'm going to meet with the guy in a week, and we're going to try and up the dosage, I think. But yeah, so that was basically why very long-winded answer to why I stepped away from Pokemon for a bit, was because all of this fucking shit was going on, and I was just trying to research it all and understand it all.
Are you nervous about upping your dosage? Because it must be like an interesting thought of mine. Say you're Matthew, you're 38 years old, you sort of lived your own little bubble in your whole life, and all of a sudden someone brings to your attention that this medication can make you view life as most of us other do. Wouldn't it be it would be like, at least to me, that sounds almost a bit intimidating.
Oh yeah. So I think
it's a bit out of your own
mindset.
I think my whole life, I've had to because of this, but I've created this image of being a very laid back slacker who perform or don't perform. I don't really care. If I do badly at school, I don't give a shit. Well, I do give a shit. I've just learned to care less because I've had to, right? But now being told hey, look, you can, it's this whole thing, right, of you can reach your potential, you can be the you've always wanted to be, that kind of thing. It's fuck off. Like, that's fucking, I don't want that. That's pressure. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
So it definitely has been that process of like, what is that going to look like? Like, am I, I could, I've never blamed it on anything. I've always just assumed like people were wrong, right? If someone set expectations too high for me, I've always just been like, well, they were wrong. But now with this whole medication thing and people saying like, you're going to be like a whole new person, I'm like, I don't really know if I want to be a whole new person, right? I don't know if I really want to do that. So it is pretty scary. And like you say, upping the dosage is pretty intimidating. But the way someone said it to me or the way I read about it is that if you walked into an optician's and you came out and your glasses weren't strong enough and you couldn't see shit, you wouldn't think twice about going back and getting thicker lenses. So if you take ADHD medication and it doesn't bring your chemicals up to a normal level, why would you worry about taking stronger medication? At the end of the day, you're not trying to get high, you're just trying to get back to normal. You're just starting at a bigger disadvantage. So that kind of helped me to think, it's not, I'm not abusing more and more cocaine, right? I'm not smoking more cigarettes a day. I'm putting a prescribed medicine into my body to try and help me get back to normality. So, but it is weird. It is weird to think about.
Yeah, that is really interesting. But if we bring it back just as a time frame, because this, as the start of the story and the end of the story, the difference in that is like what, 8 months or something. Because if I go back, Owl was this summer, right? It was through July through August, if I'm not mistaken. Around that time, right?
Or was it September, I think?
Was it later? Oh, it was later.
June, finished in September.
June? Oh shit! It's
Or
12
at least
weeks.
for us, it started in June.
Yes,
we started
sorry.
Planning, we got the tiers. I think we spent about 20 hours in Cold Has trying to figure out the tiers. So it was a long process.
Yeah, it was
So
like the
started
entire
in-
summer. It was like the entire summer for us then. Because if we bring it back to that, Matt, you had like a YouTube marathon. I felt like this summer because you went all out. I even you did collabs and everything. You had this whole content week where you just went at it. And I'm just checking your social blade now, the entire like subscriber and views and everything, the views count is quite stagnant, but the entirety of the summer is basically just spike upon spike upon spike, and that last like big spike is 28th of June through I think it stops at 1st of August. That's when it kind of dips down. So that kind of period was just YouTube, because I remember talking to you about it and you were like, yeah, hell yeah, I've set kind of goals for the channel and I just want to go at it. And it was quite inspiring to watch actually, because you fucking pumped out content like a madman.
And so it's really funny because when I started on that grind just after I started my full-time job, and it was my first ever full-time job. And then within a week of quitting my full-time job, I stopped the grind. And it's really funny because you'd think, well, you had less time, why were you grinding more? And it was exactly because I was so fucking bored at work every day. I was so just like, I needed something to get me through the day. So I was planning videos. All I was thinking about was YouTube. On my second screen, at one point I had like 8 weeks worth of Pokemon teams built ahead of time. So like 2 months later, I'd end up playing a game and I'd be like, I don't remember this fucking team. What did I build here? Because I was just so bored at work. I was just grinding out anything Pokemon because I was working on the phones, for people that don't know, and people couldn't see what I was doing because we were working from home because of lockdown over here. So I would be sat on the phone to some old lady complaining that her fridge was broken, and I'd be playing Pokemon on my second screen, just not listening to a fucking word she said. And my boss was like listening.
Good worker.
My boss was listening to my calls.
Worker of the year.
And was being like, sometimes in your calls, I don't want to say that you sound like you're not listening, but maybe you're not the warmest person. And I was sitting there thinking, because I'm not fucking listening, mate. I'm not listening at all. And she's like, sometimes you put people on hold. That. And she's like, and you're on hold for a long time. And I think there were times, Eric, where me and you were playing Pokemon, and I just had some old biddy on hold, and I was like, yeah, she can wait. Let's play.
Oh my god. God.
I was about to say that, yeah.
Jesus.
We were playing some friendlies. I think it was a mock. I was mocking you for Owl or something.
Yeah.
And I remember you were chatting like, yeah, should I do this set or should I change this spread? And then you just typed to me, hold on a minute. And I didn't really understand why you were just leaving. I thought you went to pee. It's like, oh, no, I'm at work.
Yeah.
I was chatting to some old bitch. And I was like, God damn, man.
That is
But you got promoted for being
golden.
like a good employer. I remember
Well,
that.
so what they did was they basically took me off the phone lines and put me on emails, because the way that I explained to them why I was getting through so many less calls a day than everyone else was I was like, oh yeah, I really take my time when I write emails to people, so my emails are really good. And obviously, like, not to be whatever, but I have an English master's degree. Like, I can write a fucking email, and without, again, wanting to be whatever, some of the people that I work with weren't necessarily the best at writing emails. Their grammar and stuff wasn't necessarily the best. So then my boss looked at my emails, because that was the excuse I'd given, and was like, this guy is really good at writing emails. So they put me on the emails
that
team,
is so
which
fucking gold.
is actually like a team up. So they kind of like, basically, instead of dealing with all the old ladies, I was dealing with the businesses, which is obviously kind of more important for them. But what that meant even more was that I had no calls to deal with anymore. So I would literally send 3 emails a day, do fucking nothing. And then when my boss was like, oh, it looks like you haven't got through much, I'd be like, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm just new to this team, I'm still learning. It just takes me a long time to learn things. I was just doing like 3 emails before I left at 5 o'clock every day, and that was it.
That is golden, though.
But
Jesus, your co-workers, they're absolutely retarded. And you're like, yeah, hello, company. I hope this finds you well. Your refrigerator is fucking broken. Goodbye.
Goodbye. And I only got that job because my mum got me the job as well. And the worst thing was they promoted me up and let her go, and then I quit anyway. And I was just like, I feel so bad because like I just felt so bad for her because she was way better at the job than me. Like, my mum was so much better at the job than me, but I think because of her age, they were just like, we don't need to keep her on because of the pandemic and everything. So they just let her go. And I was just like, that feels so shit that, like, she should have been moved up. Do you know what I mean? Because she was really fucking good at it and committed to it. And my mum loves,
you
like,
got your
customer
mom
service.
sacked.
Huh? What?
You got your own mother
No,
sacked from
I
the job.
didn't. I didn't get
That is insane.
That's insane.
I know, it's so shit.
What?
It's so shit. It's, I mean, the good news is she's gone on to do something better now.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, it was so bad. It was, and she had got the job, and then I hadn't been able to get a job for about 1.5 years after leaving my master's degree, and she got me that job. I went, and then when the pandemic hit, they put a load of people on furlough, which is like where, I don't know if you have it in Sweden, but it's where like they keep paying you, but you don't work, and the government kind of pays for it because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown. So they put my mum on that.
Yeah.
They couldn't put me on it because there was a cut-off date for who could go on it and who couldn't, and I had started 1 day after the cut-off date. So they came to me and they were like, either you need to work through the pandemic from home, or we have to let you go. So I was like, all right, I'll work through the pandemic. So while my mum was on furlough and not able to work, I was working and getting promoted, and then when her furlough ended and the government stopped paying it, they just never brought her back. They were just like, no, it's okay. We're having to downsize because we've lost so much money because of the pandemic. But I had already quit, I think, by that point as well, so I didn't know that she was not going to get brought back. So yeah, I was just like, man, I wish she could have worked during the whole thing instead of me, you know, and stayed on. But anyway, as I say, she's done better now anyway, so it's cool. But it was a weird fucking time. But that's why I stopped grinding YouTube, I think, because while I was working full time, YouTube was the thing that I could focus on at work. It was a thing that gave me goals, that gave me motivation. It was a thing that gave me drive and dopamine. And then as soon as I quit my job, even though I had way more free time, I completely lost any motivation to grind YouTube anymore and grind Pokemon anymore. So it's like the opposite of what you'd expect.
Wow, that is insane.
I did not get her sacked.
It's fucking insane.
I can't believe you gave the middle finger to your own mother.
Oh shit, that is the most disrespectful.
We have the title of our first podcast. Why did DrSlaking get his mum sacked?
ADHD treatment, and why did DrSlaking sack his own mother?
Oh shit.
Evil ADHD
insane,
child gets his mum fired.
Oh god.
Possessed by the devil.
Oh, a handicapped man gets his caretaker fired. His caretaker fired.
Oh god. Oh, it doesn't sound great, does it?
No.
Handicapped man overdoses and gets his caretaker fired.
Oh shit. That is a really good story though. But shit. So that's the summer then. But if we just backtrack, you didn't raise suspicions regarding because after you started uni mid or late September, right?
Yeah, I moved here at the start of September. I started at the start of October.
Yeah, exactly. So it's quite late, but you didn't raise suspicions regarding ADHD until when? November, December? Or
Yeah,
was
it was the
than
second
that?
week of November. I was staying with Katie, and that's when I started. Like, I literally opened my Twitter, and I saw someone had retweeted a tweet that was like, people with ADHD have no object permanency. If you text us and we don't text back straight away, we will never text back. We don't mean to, we just forget it exists. I thought that was funny because I was like, that's me as fuck. And I didn't really... It's not that I didn't think ADHD was a real thing. I just didn't know what the fuck it was. So I just like, hi, it's funny. I'll just send this to Katie and be like, see, it's not my fault. You can't tell me off anymore. I'm disabled, right? Like, being a dick, right? We all do these
As
things.
you should.
We all do these things sometimes where we shouldn't. And I just thought it was like funny. And then... Yeah, so from second week of November, that's when I started looking into it all.
Yeah, so that summer was if we bring this back to your whole YouTube career.
Yeah.
Summer was really good. That has to have been your best YouTube period ever, right? Like growth wise and just content wise.
By far and away, by miles. Yeah.
Because I mean, especially I like it didn't end there, but it kind of just ended. You know, you had this kind of crescendo where you had this week where you went away. You had content for every day. I even made a fucking video for you, and you ended with Pokegame coming on to the last, video that week.
Yeah,
which was really cool to watch.
Yeah, you doubled your subscriber account in 6 months or something.
Yeah, I think even less. And that was the craziest thing was, so at that time I did the video with Pokegame, and I'd been talking to him a little bit here and there about some channel stuff, and I'd got to speak to Mr. Jamvad, who I don't think you know really, Isaac, but I know Eric's watched him, and Eric knows that when I was really starting to get serious about Pokemon quite a few years ago now, about 3 or 4 years ago, Mr. Jamvad was like my go-to, so he was like someone I really kind of looked up to. And he was like, he hit me up with this project that he wanted me to work on. It was me doing some writing with him for some Pokemon stuff, which obviously is like, it's what I'm trained in. So I was like, perfect. Like, and he was really kind of, giving me lots of opportunities. And I just ended up not replying to him and ended up not doing the writing because I just couldn't bring myself to like focus on it. I just couldn't do it, right? We know why now, but I didn't know at the time, and I was really gutted because I was like, this guy that I really look up to wants me to do this thing, and I just can't fucking do it for him. I keep sitting down on the computer and just not being able to do it, getting distracted and shit. So I had all this going on, and I reached out to Joey about the WBE when they were starting up their season around that time and said, I'd love to be involved. I know I'm only a small channel, but I'm grinding really hard and etc. And he was like, yeah, because you were an analyst before, like we have taken you like kind of seriously, and you're one of the names that's being considered, but that by no means is that a promise that you'll be in. And I kind of took that as meaning like, maybe if some people dropped, I might get an opportunity, because that's how Bill and Uzi had gotten in the past. But even that for me coming, in the space of a few months to get to that point where like Joey was saying to me, maybe you'll end up being a backup or something, right? Was huge. And I still was like, this isn't what I want though. Like whilst this is all great, and I love that these people that I love watching and that I think are brilliant, great guys and great content creators are starting to respect me and know that I exist, I realized that like it's not fucking worth it if I fuck up my university education. It's not worth it, like, because you guys know this, and some people watching will. I did 2 years of a politics degree, then changed, went back to the beginning, did 3 years of an English degree, then did an English master's, then spent 2 years waiting to get onto a PhD, which I'm now on. And that's a lot of time. Since I'm 18, I'm now 26. That's 8 years of grinding kind of education to try and get into the career path I want to go down. And it's a hell of a lot of student debt as well. And I was like, if I just throw all of that kind of out the window because I like looking at colourful sprites on a screen and clicking buttons and watching things die, that's not good. Like that's not. So yeah, it was this weird thing where I had to kind of be honest with myself and be like, yeah, grinding YouTube was fun while I was at work and stuff, but that's not the career that I've invested pretty much my whole life into trying to get. So but it did feel a bit stupid, like walking away from the channel at that time where I was starting to work with bigger people and stuff. Not that the channel, by the way, I should add, is big, or that I thought I was going to be famous or the next big YouTuber at all, like not even slightly. It's just the fact that I was finally getting to where I wanted to be, and I then quit felt kind of a bit dumb. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think your grind was undeniable. I think.
Yeah, your grind was undeniable, and your growth was also undeniable.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
Kind of you quitting YouTube kind of resembles how we went out of OWL.
Yeah.
We finised on top.
Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit? Because I'm conscious we said we'd make this roughly an hour, and for about an hour, I've just talked about myself. Do you guys want to talk about OWL a little bit?
I mean,
because I know,
don't
like
think there's
Eric, for example,
too much to be said about.
Well, I know Eric's got pretty
Eric.
burnt out on Mons before and retired a couple of times, and then sort of played here and there, and like.
And I live in Eric's shadow, basically. So. That's
thought
true.
you
So
were...
if he's taking a break, I'm taking a break.
I thought you were just Eric's
like
pet.
that.
Doesn't Eric just wheel out his
like
pet dog
that.
for OWL? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
I need a teammate. Where's Isaac?
It's a bit like that, yes.
Oh, God.
No, but yeah, OWL,
So
Eric.
I think the last, if we talk about our team in OWL, I think the last few OWLs, you haven't really played Mons between the OWL seasons, Isaac.
No,
Every
I
time
haven't.
OWL rolls around, I just force you to ladder a bit before OWL so you get into the loop.
Yeah.
And then you get very annoyed in the first 2 weeks, and then you get into the mood, and then you get swing, and you win a few games, of course.
A few? I'm amazing. I
Did
don't.
you go like 3-5 this time?
No, that was Matt.
No.
I had the best record on the team. Fuck you.
What, really?
I had the best record this season. Eric played one game
Then
less.
it was a bad season. It was a bad season.
Eric
yeah.
had the same amount of losses as me, but he played one game less. So technically, I got one more win. I'm counting that as a better record.
That's true.
But I guess we kind of just lost it kind of lost the charm. 5 season of OWL.
Yeah.
I think like
OWL was a fun thing for me and Isaac to do when we were back in high school. It was sort of like our little project that we can run on the side. But I mean, it kind of like we've talked about this so many times at this point. I don't really know what's new about it. Maybe that we haven't talked about it online, so a lot of people can hear it. But
I don't think we've talked about it openly.
I'll share like my feelings on it that relate to YouTube as well, so that people that maybe aren't in OWL will have something they'll understand too. So for me, like when you guys came to me and you were like, look, what it came down to is just not enjoying it anymore. We're not looking forward to our games. We're not enjoying it. We're busy. Like we haven't really got time for this either, and it's becoming like a chore, like we said before. And the big thing for me, the difference that I noticed in the last season compared to the season before, which was something that also made me slightly struggle with YouTube a little bit, was that when we had won the season before and then come back as reigning champions, everybody wanted to beat us, right? Just like when I first joined, I really wanted to beat you guys. Or when Ben's team won it, I really wanted to beat Ben's team. When someone is like the champion or the best, everyone is out to try and beat them. And that's a normal human dynamic, and it's probably really healthy, and it's good for competition. But for me, like, I didn't really enjoy it because, especially at that time, because I was grinding YouTube and starting to get... I wouldn't even say recognition, but people knew I was grinding it. People knew I was putting effort into it instead of acting like I didn't care anymore. And so then I found that people that I'd never even met before online, I'd meet them in some random league, they would know who I was, and they would want to beat me instantly because here's the try-hard YouTuber. Here's the guy that you know, he play, or he thinks he can try and get in the WBE. He thinks he's good. Like it's like a scalp that they want to claim and have. And that was something that I really started to struggle with because I genuinely most of the time don't care that much about winning and losing in Pokemon unless it's a league that I'm particularly invested in. So I would join like side leagues, as you guys know, where I would just draft some bullshit, play for the fun of it. But suddenly, like, instead of the games just being fun, I felt like people were wanting to beat me. Maybe because they disliked me, maybe because whatever, I don't know. Maybe it was all in my head. Maybe it was not true at all. But yeah, I really.
No, it's true. I mean, they wanted to beat you on an unhealthy level.
Yeah, on a level.
It wasn't just that everyone wants
on
to
a
win,
personal
of course.
level.
I mean, even if you don't care as much, but it was a personal thing. They wanted to beat you because they wanted to have it over you.
Yeah, it's not that I want to beat my opponent this week. It's specifically like I want to beat Matthew this week. Like him, I want him, and it's like I don't mind that in like some friendly dynamics. Like for example, Vepsis is a player in the community who I really like, who I really get on with. Don't think I've ever beaten him. I would like to beat him because I've never beaten him. I'm not really like that set on it, but he's a player I'd like to beat. But it didn't even feel like that. It felt more than that. It felt like there was like an area of like resentment or whatever. And again, I think like when we were reigning champions in Owl, it really started to feel like that. It really felt like when we lost, people were getting. I think that's the thing. Instead of just enjoying someone winning, people were enjoying us losing.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a really important part. Yeah, I think distinguishing those differences is really important because that's also what made Owl great, in my opinion. We gathered people who were genuinely fun to play with. They were good players, sure, but they were fun people. And I wanted to beat them in Pokemon.
Yeah.
Not because, as you said, out of resentment, I didn't want to see them lose. I just wanted to beat them. I wanted
you enjoyed
to beat them
winning.
personally.
You didn't enjoy them losing.
We enjoyed winning, yes.
Yeah, I think the important thing is, you know, as you said earlier, you said it's important that you want to win, but it's bad when you kind of want to beat them personally, I guess. But I don't know. The thing I want to get across is I want to beat them because I enjoy playing them.
Let's use like Joey as
an
example, right? Joey, as I said, is a guy I really respect and who I've recorded with, who I chatted to that day about his like puppy training and stuff. Super nice guy. So this is not true at all. But let's use this as an example. If I didn't like him and I played against him and I beat him and I enjoyed beating him, fine, whatever. I don't give a shit about that. But if I watched him play A-Drive and I enjoyed A-Drive beating him just to see Joey lose, that's how it started to feel to me, where people weren't even enjoying them beating me. They were enjoying other people beating me or beating us as a team. They were starting to really kind of relish just seeing us lose, whether it's to them or anyone, or seeing me lose, whether it's them or anyone. And again, this could have been entirely in my head because at that time, you know, I was grinding YouTube and maybe I was self-conscious that people thought I'd be a try-hard, sweaty YouTuber and they wanted to see me lose. Maybe. I don't know. But that really just like... And that's why I don't play in any showdown leagues anymore at all. I only play in Wi-Fi that I upload to my YouTube channel because everyone there is the exact same as me. No one can be like, oh, look at this sweaty tryhard YouTuber, because they're all sweaty tryhard YouTubers. So that's why I made the decision to not play in any showdown leagues anymore, really, unless it was with a set community of people that I wanted to play with, but not strangers and not whatever, because I just didn't like that whole dynamic.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same boat as you, Matthew. It's why I'm mainly only playing on my alt accounts now when I play in showdown leagues. I'm not a YouTuber anymore. I don't think I ever really was. But you were
GBA analyst. You were the best player in our community.
That was the thing I wanted to get at. Even when I joined my first showdown league, I was already the GBA analyst who you wanted to beat. I always kind of lived in that role. Even when I joined my first league, like I went from playing, excuse the name of this league, I went from playing AIDS with Isaac and Oscar.
Oh, I love that league.
To being a GBA analyst for the GBA analyst for the biggest league there is, to just joining random showdown leagues. And I don't think a lot of people saw me being new to the scene as much as they saw me being this person that they can actually brag about beating.
Right, and
so all of a sudden there was a level of stress going into each game that you had a reputation to kind of withhold.
Yeah.
Or more so, that was kind of the first thing, that you had a reputation. Then later it went on, especially I felt like in Owl, you didn't want to fuel anything. You played just because, and you had the motivation to win, just because you didn't want the shitstorm that would follow if you lost.
Yeah. And I've felt that being on a team with the three of us, with you even more so than me and Isaac. Like I felt that that hunger to see you lose from other people sometimes, that want to see you lose because, you know, or whatever. And even when I first met you, I'll never forget this. I think you were about 16 and I was about 22-ish. I think it's about 6 years between us, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's 5 years.
5 years.
You were
So
born
maybe
94,
maybe you were like
I was 17.
17, and I was 22. And I didn't really know what the GBA was, right? But when people spoke about you in the server and people spoke to me about you, they hyped you up that much that when Nico was like, hey, Strumful's going to help you build today. He's my friend. He's cool. Don't worry, right? Because Nico told you to call me and help me build. And you called me. I was sat with Katie and I was like trembling before you called me because I was so nervous. I was like, I don't really know what this community is about, Katie, but this guy, like, everyone says that he's a real, like, big shot. Like, he's a real important person. And I, like, paced around the room while I spoke to you because I was nervous. I'm a fucking 22-year-old lad speaking to a 17-year-old lad. How am I shit scared of you? But I was really nervous because of the way the community, as you say, just assigns you this reputation instantly that you didn't really ask for. And so so when you said to me, like, I'm kind of retired and I just play on alt accounts now where people don't know who I am and I can just play and not have anything go with it, I really understood, because I was like, well, yeah, I get why you would want to do that, because there was a lot of kind of like bullshit around that sort of time, I think.
And the thing is, I think there is a very good comparison between that league, who is called the P something. Like, every other league is called something with a fucking P in it. So the first one where we actually met Matthew, Isaac, you were in that too. It was the Little Cup thingy. Remember that? You had a combustion.
PBA Little Cup?
Yeah.
Wait, was that PBA?
Yeah, PBA off season, yeah.
PBA.
So even then, when you... So in my shoes, I had a reputation that I wanted to withhold. I went through the first season, I went 12-0, I had a reputation. But the thing is, when people actually challenged me, there was a healthy kind of undertone between that they wanted to beat me and they had a motivation to beat me. And I think that is while that puts a stress on the person who obviously wants to keep on going and keep on holding up your reputation.
Yeah.
It's inevitable that you will get a reputation if you try hard and you are actually good at the game.
Yeah.
But comparing that to Owl, when there was a toxic undertone about losing.
Yeah, because that's a
just
healthy
completely
stress.
Different thing.
That's the first one is a healthy stress. You want, because it's natural when you want to win. You know, you want to win. Yes, you want to win. So that's, I mean, but
one's
you want
based on
it for the
competitiveness, the other one's based on something more personal, isn't it? If you want to beat someone
like
out
reputation.
of competition,
Yes,
that's healthy.
That's the thing.
If you want to beat someone on a personal level, that's unhealthy. Yeah. So we probably spoke about all that enough, but that's basically why we all kind of stepped away from Owl, for those that were in Owl and that wondered why we just walked away at the semi-finals when we were having a good season. That's why, Owl probably isn't going to come back. You guys have said in the past, although obviously anything can happen.
I mean, I can't, because if this was just three people who were all famous, in quotes, I'm sorry, but if that was true, then
so wank.
Famous, yeah, you are very famous in quotation. If we were all famous, because obviously, fun fact, I'm not. I can't relate to you, but I can definitely understand you. That would be one thing. When someone wants to beat me, it's out of personal, because it's something, it's something personal. But no, but it's good. It's good. Yeah, I want to be. If I battle Sean, he wants to beat me out of the right reasons. I want to be him. Because it's funny,
because you two shit talk each other and your friends, and it's all fun.
Exactly. But it got so toxic to the point where I, even as someone unknown, didn't want to play anymore. Like, it was just, I can just say that if I just speak for myself, that ruined Owl. It just got competitive to a horrible extent. I can just say that I can only talk for myself, but that was my reason for it. I was so happy with the progress over the years, because we just started a league basically out of nothing, but obviously it was nothing, but it was also out of Eric's name. I had no fucking contacts with anyone in the community. Eric was the one who taught me competitive Pokemon. He was the one who got me and Oscar into it. I had no contact, but we grew the league from season 1, which was a shit show. Season 2, really good. Season 3, I think that is peak. That or season 4 is definitely peak for me, at least. Yeah. And we got applications by, I think season 4, we got double the amount of applications that we had spots. And by season 5, we peaked obviously with people applying, which was great in a sense, but that also brought toxicity. Just pure, like it got competitive to a bad extent.
Oh yeah, and I think a lot of competitive leagues struggle with that. So maybe there's a lot of people listening that have been in big competitive leagues that kind of relate to this. But I think it still was a lot of fun. It's funny you say like, we only made the league because of Eric's contacts. I didn't know anyone. You literally ended up flying across Europe, staying in my house because of Eric. Because the first time you came to visit me and you had spoken like 3 times.
I know. It was so fun. I love that, but that was the magic about it, right? It was just the most amazing people joined, and it was just so good, and it kept on growing and growing. And I love that about it. But in the end, kind of the core aspect of why we started it to begin with, to have fun with each other and meet new people, and it was just nice, that kind of just disappeared. And then there was no real reason to keep pouring those hours into it, because obviously I was producing content like crazy for it in season 4, I believe. That took me because I've never done full-time YouTube at all. It took me so much time to edit and everything. I just want to make it look clean and kind of as good as I could, really. So that really, especially when you pour that many hours into it, it really just ruined the experience.
Yeah, well,
but I mean, I think even though we ended Owl on sort of a bitter taste, I think it's good that we ended it when we did, and we didn't want to push it for another season, because I think if we did another season for it, I think it would have ended horribly.
No, of course,
ending like week 4 and 5 or something that we just did not want to keep on going with.
That's the only reason we did it the way we did, right? Quality over quantity. We've always said that, Eric. From season 1, we've said quality over quantity. That's why we only did 5 seasons over 4 years?
Yeah.
Like it was
why we booted everyone after a season was over.
Yeah, because we wanted, because we wanted it to be a big thing. We didn't want to have Owl season 13 after 2 years. Like that's just no.
Matthew, do you actually know why we boot people after every
No, I don't know why you clear the server every time.
So obviously there's a logical reason for it, where we want to kick inactive people. So whenever you join the Owl, you're supposed to have actively joined within the last 2 months, so you want to stick around.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. But it actually has sort of like a historical meaning that when Owl season 1 went to shit, I remember, I think it was week 6 or 7, and there was like half the games hadn't been played. I remember there was a team who was basically all new because one captain dropped.
Alan
Iverson. No, it wasn't Alan Iverson. It was Todd who kicked his teammate.
Oh,
that was the first thing.
Yes.
And then Matrix just dropped. So, it was a shitstorm.
Yeah,
but the thing is, when we did that, I remember I was going over to my friend's house and I called Isaac up and was like, hey, I don't think Owl is a good idea. Like, I think the concept is good, but we just invited the bad people, and I kind of don't want to do it anymore. I remember you replied like, it's unfortunate that it had to go this way, but should we just kick everyone? I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Let's just kick everyone. So we did, because, I mean, Owl was over at that point. So when season 2 ended, it just felt natural, because we did it in season 1, even though it was a shit show, and season 2 was kind of good. It was just sort of like, we did it last time, might as well just do it again. Or someone brought it up as a joke or something, and we just kicked everyone. At that point, it was just something.
Yeah, tradition. It became tradition to kick everyone.
And it was kind of fun as well, because I remember we usually banned 1 or 2 people.
Yeah,
as well, when
we have a 6 people ban list now. We can keep that secret for now, but we can probably reveal that in the future. It's a pretty hot 6 people banned. No, you're not banned.
I need to work harder. I want to get banned from Owl.
Yeah.
But I think
So
to kind of like wrap it up, there's some useful kind of takeaways for people maybe that have felt these things before. Like both me and Eric and Isaac, all 3 of us have played on alternative accounts that nobody knew the names of, apart from our closest friends. If you guys have maybe experienced this and you're thinking, I still love playing Pokemon, but I'm just not liking like the community or whatever, like I think that's a really good piece of advice. Is it maybe make yourself a new username, just go in there. Like, you know, you don't have to give up your old friends, but just, you know, play without any pressure. Play into something where no one knows you. I think we've all played and done that and won leagues and stuff under other names, which is always good fun because it just takes the pressure off and you can enjoy playing, and you usually play better when you do. And the other piece of advice I'd give is, although we've just ranted and raved about toxic communities and complaining about certain aspects of the Pokemon community and stuff, it is also worth noting that, like, we are literally recording this because of the Pokemon community, because, like, I've made some very good friends from all around the fucking world that I still talk to now, even when I went into retirement, who I still spoke to. So it is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
It's an incredible thing, and it's not it's not to take away from any of that. I think
no, of course.
It's just what you.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wrap up the podcast here. That's been about an hour, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Like I say, if you want to hear us talk about anything specific in future, just leave comments down below. Do you guys want to say anything else before we go?
I think it was a good start.
Yeah.
Don't put
ADHD for 45
don't put
minutes.
eggs in the microwave. Word of the day. There we go.
Why? Why does your mind go to those places?
Because he has ADHD, Eric. He can't help it.
I'm ADHD. Shit. Oh, I'm handicapped. I always knew this, Eric. Fuck, I've always been special.
We always knew this, Isaac. This isn't a revelation to us.
Matt, did you get yourself diagnosed with ADHD just to tell me this?
Just
because
to tell
that
you,
is very,
it was all for you.
Yeah,
it was all for you.
That is the nicest thing someone's ever done to me.
Now
They've
pay
spent
me.
Money.
Pay me.
No, we are both piss poor. Eric's the rich one. Eric, can you give me money for this month?
Eric, you need to bet on his league games and buy me ice cream.
I'm not the rich one out of us two.
What, Eric?
I am not the rich one out of us two.
You
worked for 2 years.
Bitch, I spent that money in 2 months.
He gambled it all away on League of Legends. He's a gambling addict, Eric. He needs that dopamine. He needs that dopamine.
This is why the podcast won't work. Matthew's trying to wrap it down and we start shit-talking each other again.
Right, yes,
Jesus.
But the summary of the podcast, I have ADHD, Isaac has ADHD.
Welcome to the ADHD
We're both going to do drugs until we somewhat resemble Eric. That's the takeaway.
And Eric, and Eric has AIDS.
Until we do washing up for a hobby. That's the goal. That's our life goal.
Don't just call this ADHD podcast. We'll just try and like miss the point each time. Just spin away to new topics every time. Just never finish the fucking podcast.
No, because by the next one, I'm going to be on very powerful crack cocaine, so I'll be focused as shit. I'm going to be so focused.
Matthew will join the next podcast. Hello. Today we're going to talk about chess. I've learned 7 new chess moves.
No, he's getting fucking hyped. Oh, I'm so fucking focused.
I've been playing chess with my friend who lives here, and I literally will stare at the chessboard for like 10 minutes, and then I'll be like, fuck, it's my move, isn't it? I've just been thinking about some random shit, and I'm like, oh, fuck, and he's like, wow, you're really like planning ahead, aren't you? I'm like, no, I just keep losing focus.
The thing is, if Matthew actually goes on crack cocaine, the next time, let's say we talk about chess, the second Isaac mentions something else about the weather, about the day, about his girlfriend, his divorce, whatever, Matthew will start screaming because it's off topic.
No, Isaac.
We are talking about the UU metagame, you dumb fuck.
That should be the next topic.
Oh, jeez.
Episode 1, my ADHD diagnosis. Episode 2, my crack addiction. Episode 3, R.I.P. DrSlaking. Isaac and Eric's testimonial.
Episode 4, the development of Isaac's UU.
Episode 5, I'm homeless. This is my first and last vlog. No, Matthew.
No.
Episode 6, I'm now Onision.
Right, this is the end of episode 1. We are ending it here. Thank you so much for living around with us.
Shout out to PokeMMD.
Yes, shout out to Joey. Very good guy. And we'll catch you again next time. Bye.
Shout out to Slaking's mother.
No, she gets no shout out.
Okay.
She's unemployed. Scrounger. Bloody scrounger.